Hi, this is Dustin. In this video, I will show proof for No More Genocides, Part 1, with today's science and technology for real Star Trek, with credible sources in the description. My background: I have 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and I completed my PhD degree, accepted dissertation, and instead wrote a book that is free on Amazon based on Yara Shahidi's hypothesis given in a speech at the Gleason Respect Awards on October 19th, 2018. The hypothesis is that prevention will lead to equity, and that equity will lead to equality. This is a nonprofit channel, and everything said on this channel has a reference in the description. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Okay, let's begin. When humans watch movies or read books, they feel what the character is feeling or going through by recognizing the emotion from their own experiences. Even though humans recognize that the characters in books and movies are fantasy, the person following along in the story mimics or mirrors the same trauma or joy that the characters of the story are going through. This is why movies and books have been so popular throughout history and are universal across all cultures. All humans have the same limbic system or emotional part of the brain. This means when a person is in pain, say in the movies, then that person is experiencing their own pain as well. The pain matrix in the brain is at the heart of how humans connect with each other. This is the basis for empathy when you put yourself in another person's shoes. Genocide is only possible when dehumanization happens on a massive scale, not just a few individuals, but whole sections of the population. Propaganda is the tool to make this happen. It is a misinformation campaign of dehumanization in order to make the other side, so to speak, less than human. Propaganda has played a significant role in genocides in the 20th and 21st centuries, like the Nazi campaign that started the Holocaust. What propaganda does so well is that it dials down empathy and where people stop caring for one another. Why is propaganda so significant in reducing empathy and starting genocides? To answer this is to start in the brain. For example, in psychopaths' brains, scientists have found out that psychopaths do not really use their prefrontal cortex, or the front part of the brain. The prefrontal cortex, or the front part of the brain, comes to life when interacting with people. If a friend is sad over a breakup, then the prefrontal cortex of the person reads their friend's sad nature by reading their facial features on what emotions are being displaced. Plus, the person uses information exchanges like questions to understand the friend's situation. Once the person understands all of this, then the limbic system or emotional part of the brain lights up like empathy to once again console the friend. With psychopaths' brains, they can't use their prefrontal cortex to read people, and they in turn cannot release empathy towards others. They can't put themselves into another person's shoes. They just think another person is an obstacle to be worked around or manipulated in whatever purpose they see fit. With psychopaths accounting for only a small fraction of the population, genocides are driven by ordinary citizens. In science experiments, when people are confronted with people outside their in-group, the prefrontal cortex is less active. Also, when people see stereotypical images of different social groups, again, the prefrontal cortex is less active. The experiments also show that when people are confronted with people outside their in-group, a mental avoidance is detected because the person interacting with an out-group person is thinking that the interaction will be painful. Another example, if a person says something that is misunderstood by an outgroup person, then there might be a confrontation. Another example, if a person doesn't know how to speak the outgroup person's language, or the outgroup person's culture is so different from their own culture, then this person won't have anything in common to talk about. Basically, it leaves a negative emotion for the person trying to interact with the outgroup, instead of a positive emotion when interacting with their in-group. When people constantly avoid the outgroup of people, then experiments show these people are viewed as objects instead of people. The prefrontal cortex of the brain is less active when interacting with a cup. The brain views the outgroup of people just like a cup. This is called object thinking. This can, under the right capacity, make an ordinary human's brain look like a psychopath's brain under a brain scan. This in turn shows that they do not have empathy for the outgroup. Now, when it comes to genocide, if all the members in the in-group are complicit in creating atrocities, then all the members experience the same reduction of the prefrontal cortex for that outgroup, as well as showing no empathy at all. They're basically object thinking. This can be studied and examined like a disease or outbreak in a group contagion that is spread deliberately. The perfect tool for this group mentality to commit genocide on the outgroup, as mentioned before, is propaganda. This shows that large sections of the population believing in the propaganda are ordinary citizens taking action with a psychopath's brain, so to speak, to do harm against the outgroup. Propaganda throughout time has changed very little. It is the dehumanization that propaganda pushes as a narrative by making the enemy less than human, or by making them an animal. Propaganda is a weapon that has become an art and a science to make it more dangerous today. The internet is the perfect tool to propel propaganda messages to people who are most likely to act upon them, young men. Any extremist group can reach millions of people with the key of a stroke. For example, extremism has been growing in plain sight on social media like Facebook, Twitter, and the far distances of the internet. More ordinary people are joining extremist groups, and that is frightening to experts. In the end, propaganda manipulates the brain activity inside humans. This is part 1 of No More Genocides. Live long and prosper.